Now that we're tested. Official welcome to the Women Catalyst first anniversary. Let's give it up for Kim and Lindsay. They're so excited to have you. I'm so excited. By the way, my name is Katie Tilson, and I've been coming to Women Catalyst, I think, since the inaugural event, if not the second one. And I'm going to just steal the show for 1 second and say that I have taken Women Catalyst to New York, and we will eventually post more about it. And if you like tonight and you have friends in New York, please encourage them to go to our New York events. But back to tonight, and we're so excited that they're celebrating their 1 year anniversary, because whether this is your first event, your second, your fourth, whatever, I think you know that these women have touched you, this community. They've created something out of nothing, and I, for one, am so grateful that they have. And they've just created a whole new network that I didn't even know was possible. So I hope that you have taken that out of previous events, or you're taking it out of the first one. If you are new to this community, you might have learned that each event, all the proceeds, all those ticket sales go to a nonprofit. So they're not benefiting anything from it. It's fully funded to a nonprofit. And this one is going to Lava Mae. And if you don't know what they do, they deliver dignity and unlock the opportunity for those experiencing homelessness, one mobile shower at a time, which is just like beyond incredible, and doing great work in the city. And they've made so much money, and you'll have to tune into your email tomorrow to find out exactly how much money is being donated. But please get those dollars up. But I'm going to kick it over to Lindsay and Kim, who are going to interview each other, which they'll explain is a bit different for them. But I'm really excited to hear more about how they came up with this idea. So I'm going to kick it back over.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Katie. So tonight we're going to be interviewing each other. We're going to have a conversation of sorts. We'll see sort of like, we're just going to go with it. And we'll make some other announcements, I guess, towards the end of the evening in terms of what's happening. But just a big thanks to Weebly. They surprised us tonight with the cheese board and have taken such good care of us this last year. So we couldn't be here without them. Thanks to Mario and Women Tech Makers for supporting the filming of Women Catalysts. And thank you to our volunteers who checked everybody in tonight. We really appreciate it. So I guess I'll kick it off. So we get this question a lot, and it's probably a great starting point, is sort of, where did Women Catalysts come from? What is the genesis for how we're here today? Do you want to maybe start, and then we'll...
Well, I'll give the short version, which I know a lot of you have heard before, but one day Kim and I were drinking beer in the park. She was flying a kite because she's more multi-talented than I am. And I kind of out of nowhere just said, hey, do you want to start a speaker series for women with me? And Kim was just like, yeah, let's do it. And I said, well, awesome. Well, what should we call it? And she's flying a kite, and she just kind of like looks up at the sky and says, how about Women Catalyst? And I'm like, done. I get my phone out, I buy the domain then and there, and it was on. So that's the short version. But we were kind of talking, and we actually did prepare a little bit for this.
Moderately.
We were talking about how that actually didn't really come from nowhere. It had stemmed from a lot of different things that were going on in the news and also in our personal and professional lives. I want to give a big shout out to Ladypreneurs and my good friend Lori Glue, and we got some other Ladypreneurs in the room. And Kim at the time was in a group called Badass Women's Group.
And there's a few folks here from that group as
Badass
well.
Women's Group? Woohoo! Yeah? Yeah.
and part of it was we were limited by the space of our living rooms and the venues in which we were hosting these smaller groups.
And meeting a lot of women who didn't have these groups and wanted something like it, needed something like it. And I think also the desire to make something more public, because I think it is actually really important that we have the kind of conversations we have with women on stage and telling their stories. We've gotten the opportunity to interview so many women, and then not only in front of all of you, but also now film this content and share it online. And I think having Ladypreneurs and Badass Women Group were really good entries into this, and also, our stories matter and should be heard, and I think having a public stage for them is really meaningful.
And if you watch our like intro video, it was also that this like the larger events we were going to we weren't leaving energized.
They were terrible. And we're pretty social.
Very, very social. Very social. But, you know, there's just nothing like leaving an event with a bunch of business cards and then like those business cards really not meaning anything. And we wanted to create an environment and design an experience where we hope to have people achieve a greater connection through just being here and in the present and with each other, which is where the guided networking sort of came out of.
Yeah, and not to say that like you can't have an interesting conversation with someone starting with where do you work or what do you do, but I also think that the kind of people who are drawn to an event like this are probably either in transition or seeking transition, and that's maybe not the question that lights them up because they're actively looking for something else. So getting people to talk about things that light them up, I think fosters a deeper sense of actually getting to know people. You know, like, I mean, did any of you ask someone a question tonight and they got excited about their answer? Yeah. Molly, yeah. I like your hand up. Thanks, Molly. Yeah. Yeah, you too, Emily. Thanks, Emily. And what does it give both of you when you get to talk about something that lights you up? That wasn't rhetorical. Thank you. What? They see who you are, yeah. Or even when you talk about something that's hard, they still get to see who you are. We're in it for like the real stuff. We're not that into small talk.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
All right, then let's get into it.
Okay, what are we going to talk about next?
All right. So, you know, many of you have participated in our visioning workshop. So it's really important for us to sort of help people to develop their vision and figure out what their path is. And so maybe we could talk about sort of how vision played a role in the beginning of Women Catalysts.
I like that. Yeah, it's a great idea, Kim. We spend a lot of time talking about what we wanted this to be before we got into any of the how. And that was so helpful because even when things were or have been challenging, or we're not sure what's next, or we're not sure how to accomplish something we want to accomplish, we know what we're working towards. And we had built a lot of enthusiasm and commitment by talking about what we wanted to create.
And also thinking like, you know, I remember when, because it was about 6 to 7 months before we actually launched Women Catalysts. So from that time in the park to when we had our first event a year ago, that was 6 or 7 months. And a lot of that was visioning and thinking about really the big, like we sat down and we did,
We have all sorts of...
a retreat center, international like residencies, like around the world, a speaker series, workshops, you know, and even some of the things that are now on our plate weren't part of that vision, but they certainly fit on it, you know, in terms of where we're going.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good thing to do, not just when you're creating something for yourself, but when you're creating something with a person, to make sure that you're buying into the same thing is really important.
Yeah, I mean, as we had opportunities arise or when folks would reach out to us, the vision was a grounding force for us to know where we were going and to say, this is something that we need to run with. We see real opportunity here, and it's in line with what we always had dreamt of Women Catalysts being. And do you want to speak about sort of your experience leading the visioning workshops and how you've seen vision helping others?
Where's Nicole? Can I tell them what you told me? Yeah. Okay. So Nicole went to a workshop I didn't lead last week. Kristen Hayden, one of our previous speakers, led. And one of the things that Nicole committed to, so visioning, you typically write from the future and you write it as if it has already happened. And it just makes it feel more, you get a sense of what that would actually feel like, right? And one of the things Nicole had written was that she exercises regularly. And so she had a really terrible night of sleep the other night, woke up at 2 a.m. and was like, fuck this, I am not doing my 6 a.m. workout, got up, went to her phone, went to cancel it, and then stopped because she said, wait a minute, like, I want to be the kind of person who makes my 6 a.m. workouts. Yeah. And it was awesome. I think a lot of people have a hard time, like they know what they want, but then they don't do it anyways, right? Like you want to exercise more, or you're going to start meditation next week, or that creative project, right? All of these things. Like we know what we need and we know what we want. And a lot of times we still let other things get in the way of the things that we say are our priorities.
And we did that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah. So we started looking around for a venue. After we did some of the visioning, Galvanized pretty early on offered to host, but they were under construction at the time. And everyone knows how construction goes, right? Like, kept getting delayed. And then it was like the holidays. So around Christmas, a little over a year ago, I said to Kim, hey, like, I really want to do this. Let's just start small.
Just 1 foot in front of the other.
Just 1 foot in front. And then sure enough, it wasn't small, but it was 1 foot in front of the other. And our first event was exactly a year ago. And it's been a really wild ride. It's grown a lot faster than we had ever hoped or dreamed. What's been the best part for you?
I think it's been growing an incredible community. And you know, when we first started, I would say like the first event we did was really like all of our friends. And like one other person they brought along. Thank you, friends, for coming to that first event. And then what was really incredible was to see the word spread so organically and to see people getting really enthusiastic and to really light up and to write us emails afterwards to say, I came to your event and I left feeling inspired to do things that I've been dreaming of, but I haven't had the courage to do. And tonight I met 3 other women who are in the same boat, and they felt safe. And they felt like this was a community that could support them in taking that leap of faith. And so that was really incredible to see the community grow organically. And then, you know, and then there's been some months where, you know, all the friends that are here are friends that I've made from the community. You know, strangers become friends, and it only continues to grow. So I think that's been my favorite part. What about you?
Similar. I love it when this happened tonight too with Kelly met, who was it? Who did you oh no, you met Hillary through Kat. I love these things. We love to connect people. It feels really awesome to see you all, you know, like I'm Facebook friends with a lot of you, and see that you guys meet here and then become friends and help each other out. And some of you are talking about starting businesses together, and so to see that just kind of spiral in really beautiful ways makes me happy.
Start businesses like us. And so maybe we could talk about like what it's like to start a business with your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what are the pros and what are the cons?
Maybe
that one.
You want me to start?
Well, yeah, I asked you the question. I mean, I could.
Oh no, I'm just teasing. Well, I mean, the pros are it's a lot of fun. Like, I mean, I have more fun with Kim than like anybody. Like, we have a really great time. Yeah. The cons are, you know, I think sometimes it's hard to have hard conversations when you are so, like, I know everything that like goes on in her personal and professional life. This is not Kim's job. Kim has a very serious full-time job that occupies a lot of her time and attention and passion. You know, she's very passionate about that as well. So sometimes, you know, like there was a period of time where Kim was super busy with a launch and just couldn't really participate very, very much. And I knew how busy and stressed she was, so I didn't want to add to her plate. So I think sometimes being friends means that like we have put the business stuff on hold, which is fine.
But it also meant that, you know, when, regardless of how busy I was, like we still had to have check-in points where you'd be like, Kim, like I'm carrying the water right now and it's getting heavy. And I had to say, thank you for sharing that with me because, you know, let me know how I can carry more of the water. And I might not be able to carry as much as you right now, but I really want to help you take it off your shoulders because this is something we're doing together. And I think that's actually one of the hardest things about starting something with your best friend is that, I feel there's an incredible amount of guilt at times. Having a full-time job and, not being able to be on as many calls as you get to be on or interviewing guests or our catalysts before they come on and not being able to be there for you as fully as you're there for Women Catalyst is hard, but it's also like your understanding and your compassion for looking at it through where I am and acknowledging where I can step in, it's about the baton, right?
Yeah, we do have this joke about passing the baton. And it's actually a great metaphor because I'm kind of a control freak. I'm a little uptight. So I sometimes will ask him to do something, but then be a little, like we use a serious comma. Who I care, but no, it's okay. I'll just edit it after. But if you're gonna hand someone the baton,
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. You fight your battles.
You have to hand them the baton, and so I think we both work on doing that. Do you want to talk about the baton we're passing?
Yeah, we can. Well, let's
just
make the
go
first
for it.
future announcement of the night.
Okay.
When it comes to Catalyst Conversations, which is this event, this past year, Lindsay has been. Lindsay's
you
leaving.
keep going.
Lindsay's literally leaving. Lindsay has been leading the interviews. Was that a machete? Lindsay has been leading the interviews, and tonight we're passing the baton because I'll be taking the interviews on this year and leading the Catalyst Conversations, sort of passing the baton.
Don't open it because it is a very sharp knife. So I was going to make you a baton that had all of your favorite things on it, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and accordions and kites. But I hate crafting, so I thought I would just buy one instead. So don't open it here. She likes machetes, just to be clear. So I passed the baton. I'm really excited because I think because I lead more of the events, a lot of you probably know me, or some of you know me more than you know Kim, who now owns a machete, so be careful.
Not saying, just saying.
And I'm really excited for you to get to hear more of Kim's voice. And also, Kira led networking tonight. How great was that? Where's Kira? Woo! Over there. Yeah. And we want to be passing the baton to more of you, too.
Yeah, I think that's where I was about to go in terms of the baton.
They won't be machetes for the rest of you, just to be clear.
Maybe that'll become a tradition. I don't know. I'm in PR though. I don't think that would be a good story if it comes out. We give machetes to everybody who goes to spread Women's
uprising of women. Yeah.
But in terms of passing the baton, we have tried to pass the baton a lot in this year to others because one of the core tenets of Women Catalysts is to be seen and to be heard. Do you want to share more about that, being seen and being heard? Or I can also talk more about it. I think that one of the things we recognized that when people were meeting during the guided networking, when we were acknowledging women on stage, or during the latter part of our evening, we'll go into an audience Q&A and celebrations where we ask everyone to celebrate anything from, getting a new job to, I did laundry today and it had been a while. It can even be that little. So this idea of visibility and one of the things that I remembered going to events prior to Women Catalyst is that idea of feeling invisible. So really for Women Catalyst, we're really trying to find as many opportunities to give people the space and the stage to be visible. Whether it's leading workshops, leading networking, taking Women Catalyst to New York or Los Angeles. And it's really passing the baton that not only grows our community, but strengthens it.
Well said. You're so smart.
You're so pretty. It's another inside joke.
We'll try not to do too many of those. That would be probably not as fun for them as for us. Yeah.
Well, we can just explain them all, and then and there's.
What do you have next?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I prepared for this. I'm trying to take my new responsibility in Machete very seriously.
I rode here in a lift with that, and the guy didn't notice. I just kept waiting for him to say something.
I do the same thing with our dog sometimes.
Yeah.
So we. So another thing that Lindsay and I share is a dog, Leo, who's over there. And yeah, Lindsay was driving back from Anderson Valley last April, and Leo was running in the middle of the road and
Wild and free.
And about a pound lighter. And she sort of texted me and said, "What do you think about sharing a?" Sort of, you know what? It's just like in that park a year and a half ago. She texted me and she's like, "What do you think about sharing a dog?"
Kim says yes to life, and I really love that about Kim. I would have been like, I don't know about that.
And I was like, yes. Yeah. I'd been at the SPCA a week before, actually,
you were in the
looking
market.
at dogs. I like to think that I actually, I summoned Leo
Okay.
from,
We went to the SPCA thing, and she had, I had known that she was interested in getting a dog, and I was like, okay, Kim, am I playing good cop or bad cop here? Let me know so I can fill my role accordingly, which is something I think we do well with Women Catalysts too, so to bring it back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, which hat do you want me to wear right now? And that's actually, I think, going back to starting something with your best friend or somebody who you have an existing relationship with, is sort of being able to say, okay, let's have a date night that doesn't involve, only talking about Women Catalysts, which we still do at times.
Just one thing. Just one thing.
But we do find the time. But thinking about relationships, we've gotten to have a lot of different conversations this year, and to grow Women Catalysts sort of requires not only building relationships within the community, but bringing on new partners and exploring that. I'd love for you to share a bit more about that experience and sort of lessons or takeaways that the audience could maybe take from that.
About starting a business with your...
Well, we reach out to a lot of people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we reach out to them over and over again, and we're
Yeah.
asking for things, and they don't always get back to us.
No.
What's that like?
I've actually learned to be pretty shameless over the last year. It's been great, because before I would have been like, oh, if someone doesn't get back to me, I'm annoying them. They don't want to hear from me. And no, people are just busy. It's not personal if someone doesn't write you back. And in fact, a lot of people actually appreciate you following up with them. And if they're not interested or it's not the right fit, I still find that most people love to be helpful, and they'll try to direct you to someone else or a different organization. That people really do their best to be generous, and so giving people the benefit of the doubt, not taking things personally, and just, going with whatever's there to be tremendously helpful. I mean, it's hard to not take things personally, right? It's like the lesson I keep learning again and again and again.
Yeah, but I think when you don't take it personally and you keep reaching back out, there is, we had somebody get back to us the other day, and he's like, "You must hate me by now, Kim." And I'm like, "No, I don't hate you. I recognize that you're a busy person, and I'm trying to forge a partnership with you, and I'm going to just keep knocking. I'm going to keep knocking, and you're going to answer that damn door."
Well, and it's also probably ends up, in this case, ends up being for the best, because we've evolved a lot since that conversation started. So I think knowing and trusting that things will work out if you're taking action and moving forward and doing the things that matter to you, that the outcome will work out.
Yeah, and that reminds me, when we had Lisa Fetterman, who's the founder of Namiku, as one of our catalysts. One of your favorites, yeah? I mean, that's one. I mean, she's and I'm going to say this she's one ballsy bitch, and I love her to death. That's right, Lisa. She said never yet. I'll just reiterate what Leanne's saying. She said never give up, and you keep bugging them. When we interviewed her fairly early in Women Catalysts, and or she would say, when I go to an event and my goal is to meet 3 different people, I will in many ways, she's like, I put on sort of a persona of saying, fake it till you make it. I'm going to get in front of this person. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to tell them what my product is, and I'm going to see how I can move this ball forward. And I think that going back to taking things personally or sort of feeling like, the fear of the unknown, that sometimes if we can sort of put on a braver persona than we think we have, we can do a lot more. And that's kind of like, in some ways, ties into this like upper limit problem that we've been started talking about a couple of different speakers in a row.
We've talked about it before, but I'm going to assume that some of you are not familiar with the concept of an upper limit problem, maybe? No? Okay. An upper limit problem is like this internal barometer for how much happiness we think we deserve, how much success, how much money, how much love. And what happens when we push on those upper limits is there's going to be some discomfort, right? So maybe you're about to give the biggest presentation of your life and you lose your voice, right? That's like an upper limit problem. And Kim and I were talking about this the other day, that like when you're doing something like this, it's just like one upper limit problem after the next. I can't do it with my microphone, but you get the idea, right? But guess what? Like, the limits get bigger, but we also keep solving problems and advancing.
Yeah, and Melanie Wong talked about that, one of our catalysts last month, where, as she was growing her business and getting more traction, she kept feeling like she was hitting this perceived limit, like, I can't do this. And then realizing that it's all a journey and it's a long one.
She said something I really loved, which is that resiliency is the best competency. That's like a good one to take with you. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite catalyst, or?
I'm like a mom. Every child is my favorite child. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so maybe do you have any other takeaways like Melanie's that?
Oh, we will do questions in a minute, honey. Okay, so I loved that. I loved Laura's just Gerald it. So Gerald is this like imaginary man. Like, have you ever like spent too long writing an email and then you erase it and you have like a smiley face, an exclamation point? You're like, are they not gonna like it, right?
That's the worst.
I wish I could have all of those hours back. So Laura does this thing they call just Gerald it. Like, what would Gerald do? Gerald would just hit send, man. So just hit send. It's okay. Nobody is. Yeah, Melissa. A Chrome extension, just not sorry. Ooh. Could you repeat the comment?
Yeah.
A Chrome extension called just not sorry. We'll email it to you all later, okay?
Yeah. But it basically is helping to, that's really awesome. It's basically helping you to stop using passive language.
Yeah.
Or what a lot of women do, which is apologize or ask for permission instead of just saying what you want.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a favorite takeaway. Thank you, Laura. I thought Zakia was really incredible and vulnerable. She talked about some really personal stuff. And it was a good lesson for me, too, in that, like, talking about the hard stuff is actually a lot more meaningful to people than talking about all the things that are happy and light and easy or good, and that when you tell your story and you make meaning not just for yourself but for other people. Elle was great. Like, Elle was sort of like my bucket list person, and we got her in like month 6, which is wild. Like, I'd sent her a cold email and she wrote me back. Wild. But all of them. What about you?
I mentioned her earlier, Lisa Fetterman with Namiku. Just, her courage and her ability to sort of advocate for both herself and her company, which is actually interesting because we sort of talked about this, how, and this is statistic, and Kristen Hayden, who's another one of our catalysts who's involved in women in politics, talked about this, how women don't run for office because they don't feel comfortable selling themselves or asking for money for themselves to run and represent.
They don't
people.
do it unless they're asked.
Unless they're asked. But you're much more likely to run to be the head of the PTA or at a more local level because you're doing it not for yourself, but for your kids or for your community. And it's interesting because both Lindsay and I have said that, it's far easier to advocate for women catalysts, to do all the things that we're trying to explore within women catalysts, than we think it probably would have been asking from ourselves. The Kim and Lindsay show.
Yeah.
Which
I would watch. I think it would be really fun,
Who knows what's going to happen,
We're just putting it out there. Hi. And to that end, I think even talking about how we started, and this event still 100% of the ticket sales go to nonprofits. Our workshops don't. We're a business. We're not a nonprofit. I haven't worked for someone else since I was 24. I am not cut out for that.
No, you're quite independent and entrepreneurial.
Me?
Yeah. You're a hustler, baby.
Yeah. We can all be our own bosses. I mean, here's the thing. Even when you're your own boss, you always work for someone else. So we started Women Catalyst, but we work for you. And happily.
So, Linz, what do you think about mindset?
Oh.
And sort of what the catalyst, how does mindset play a role in what we do, but in general, sort of how we see unlocking people's potential?
I think the upper limit problem is a great example of that. And it's something we've been exploring since we started doing workshops. We do a mix of things. We do some skill, tangible-oriented things like resume and LinkedIn, but a lot of it is around getting clear about what you want, getting more confident. And my background is that I'm a longtime yoga teacher and life coach, and you could build all of these skills or you could have all of this knowledge, but if you're battling the mean monkey in your head all of the time that says that you're not good enough, somebody else is already doing that, why would you bother? If you can't deal or make friends with that mean monkey and manage your mindset, it doesn't matter what kind of skills you have, right? I mean, how many of you have that voice in your head who tells you that? Yeah. So the workshops have been a great way to introduce some content that we think has been valuable to you all. Should we announce the other thing now? So
I think when we're on the, we're talking about mindset and unlocking,
Okay.
The future.
So the big project that we've been working on for the last couple months is that we are doing an 8-week group coaching program and online community. And I'm really excited about this because the workshops are great, but the thing about mindset is if you're dealing with an issue of confidence or clarity, that 2 hours of content is helpful, but what you really need is time to put it into practice, maybe different ways of approaching it, group support, ongoing support. So I'm so excited. It launches in end of March, and I'm going to be leading it, but with a lot of other people bringing in awesome content, including some of you in here today. Katie's going to be leading some of it. Kim's going to be leading storytelling. Josh is going to be leading improv for connection. And I'll email it to you all tomorrow.
Oh, and what's it called?
It's called the Catalyst Collective. She works in PR, can you tell? I'm just talking about it. It's called the Catalyst Collective. Woo!
I'm really excited about it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is on our website. Yeah.
You can learn more at womencatalyst.com.
Thank you, Siobhan. Should we pass it over to Q&A?
I think that it'll be far more interesting to get the questions from these folks in the audience than...
Katie, will you?
I know Leanne was chomping at the bit.
Leanne, did you have a question? Where'd she go? Oh, question.
Hey. Should I stand up? I'll stand up. Why not? This feels empowering. Congratulations on moving to LA and New York. I am a bit of a control freak, like you, Lindsay. What was it like letting go of your baby to somebody else, and what is a good way to cope with that feeling of kind of taking something you've worked so hard on and trusting it with other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually really excited. So Katie had been saying to me since we started, like, you should do this in New York. You should do this. You should do this in New York. And so back, I think it was in September, she said it to me again. And I said, hey, Katie, why don't you do it in New York? And she said, yeah.
And I would just add, I think one of the things when I do it in New York, when I'm telling the Catalyst, I'm like, this is the coolest thing because Lindsay and Kim have done such a wonderful job with it. But one of the best things that I think about giving up the control is I think so many people have that problem with their baby, but like they just trusted me and they weren't like, you have to follow XYZ else it's not going to be good. And they just, with that trust, I wanted to do good by them. And I think that combination just lent itself so well to success. I don't. I'm a former ex-New Yorker who goes back a lot.
You go a lot, yeah. And then in LA, it's one of my other very best friends, Kaylee, and her good friend Terry, who I trust implicitly. And, you know, we want to be a platform for women. And at some point, that means like passing the baton and it being a space for not just our voices and style, but theirs. And it will evolve. We continue to figure it out. But like, it's so rewarding to see Katie go do this in New York and light up and, you know, call me the next day and tell me about what an awesome experience it was and how she wishes it was there when she was there. Yeah, it's a good question. Thanks, Scott.
Oh, come on.
This is weird.
I'm just curious how you guys knew each other from before the day in the park with the beer.
Yeah, so Lindsay and I have known each other for about 6 years. So we have mutual friends, and I started coming out to San Francisco about 5 years ago when I was still in Washington, D.C. I worked in politics for 10 years, had a career. I wanted to be White House press secretary and had realized that my soul was slowly dying there and I needed to think about something else. And so I kept coming out to D.C. or to San Francisco, and Lindsay would be around. So we started getting sushi or, you know, meeting up when I was in town. And then when I moved here, reached out again and said, hey, girl, I'm here officially. And then we started to become better friends, you know, and best friends. Yeah.
Go on vacation with her family. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's truth. Yeah.
Holidays.
All the time.
Yeah. We get asked if we're partners.
I think a lot of people think we're like romantic partners. But you know what? Thank you. Just, it's fine.
And then I always have to clarify. I'm like, we're best friends. No, we don't live together. Yes, we share a dog. Yes, we have a business. Yes, we hang out a lot. But it's a great partnership, you know? And I think also like having a business with your best friend, actually, while it can make sometimes conversations harder because you know what the other person's going through, it also like, you know, we're friends for life. So we're going to work through like what we need to work through and have the conversations we need to have the conversations to have, because that is critical to our, you know, our long-term relationship. And relationships are really what is the most important thing in life, you know. So Alina or others?
Hi, yeah. Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. I'm so excited for you guys. So I have a 2-part question. One is like, what are some key insights to building a really awesome community? Like with Women Catalyst, what have you learned in the last year? And Kim, why are you obsessed with machetes? Why are you obsessed with machetes? That's the second part of the question.
I'll answer. Okay. I think a big part of building community is just paying attention to how people feel. And you know, like not everyone likes the guided networking, and that's okay. You cannot be all things to all people. But we really, when we create an event, our very deepest hope is that you leave feeling good. Beyond that, like how to get people to come to events, that kind of, when we first started, you know, we would like email everybody we knew. We would remind them like, hey, you RSVP'd yes on Facebook, but you didn't buy your ticket yet. Are you coming? Like we were kind of pests, you know, and but like this goes back to like, don't be afraid to keep knocking on people's doors. Laura gives me a lot of helpful advice. I remember the first event we were planning it, and like in my head, I just knew that it could be this like really great thing, right? Like we had built so much good energy around it, but I didn't do a great job writing the copy for the description. And I was like kind of stressed, and Laura said, "Well, you didn't tell anybody what they're gonna get out of coming." So. As I know a lot of you are business owners and service providers, and you're like, a lot about the features of the thing that you're selling or offering, right? But people don't come for that. They come for like the benefit that they get out of it. And so learning to frame it from that perspective has been a good lesson too. I'm sorry? I didn't hear you, hon. Oh, I haven't even heard of that, so that's helpful. Thank you. That's great. Okay, Kim, to be fair, is not obsessed with machetes. She does like to build fires, though.
I like to build things in general, like IKEA furniture and me, like that is so cathartic. When I was like first getting into San Francisco and starting a consulting business, which led to a full-time job, I like thought about putting an ad on Craigslist saying like, I'll build IKEA furniture for you. So I'm like a big builder, and I'll be like the first one to help like set up the tent, camping. And when we were in Mexico over Christmas, this is where the machete comes in. We were staying in a remote desert house, very remote, scorpions, no heater, and it got cold at night. Like it was sort of like when people come to San Francisco and they think they're in California. And we were in Mexico, and I thought we were in Mexico, but we were in the desert in the wintertime, and it got real fucking cold. And we had before they delivered us more wood, we had these giant pieces of wood and just a machete. And so me and our friend Simon, who couldn't make it tonight, we just like went to town. Like the machete became like an extension of me in order to like keep the home hot. And so now I have a machete for camping trips, or you're gonna use that. I know you are. I'm not gonna say it actually.
Okay, I will ask you. Maybe we'll ask her about that. Oh, okay, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Just like Kate, Alina has it. Hi, Alina.
Hi. So you know so much about one another. What's like one thing that you discovered about each other since doing and working and thinking about Women Catalyst? Like shockingly new, maybe.
One thing. Okay. So, I mean, I knew how smart Kim was. I knew how dedicated and motivated she was. But like she can be next level fierce when she's negotiating for something. It is so great to see. I love it. Because like you don't experience that side of her when you're just having a beer with her, And we're on some calls and she's like, well, that's great, but what I really want is this. And she just like goes for it. And I really like that about you.
Yeah. I feel like I bring that to the partnership. I mean, for me, seeing Lindsay's incredible dedication to the Catalyst community and her love for every individual that's a part of it. I mean, when you see all the different emails that come in, her care and attentiveness to each person and them feeling like they're a part of the community has been really incredible. And I have to say, I do have a full-time job that's 60 hours a week. And if it wasn't for Lindsay's, fierce love for Women Catalyst and her dedication, we would not be where we are today. We would not have this expanded programming, a community of more than 2,000 people, multiple cities, and more, good stuff to come. So I think I knew Lindsay. Lindsay is a fiercely loyal friend and shows up, but her showing up and frankly like getting out of your comfort zone on a lot of these different things. Public speaking is not your first choice, but it's something that was required, and it's something you've grown into really beautifully. And she's actually going to be. Can I announce this right to you?
Okay, you can't tell anybody because no, we're not.
Oh, then we can't.
Spill it out.
Oh, it's on film. We're filming it.
Oh, I know, but that's not going to go out for a while, right?
Okay, yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah. Oh, so I can. You want Okay. What? Okay, so Lindsay will be representing Women Catalysts on an international women's event at Google, the first in the next couple weeks, and she's she's one of 5 women who's been asked to speak from Bay Area or even national Bay Area organizations. So huge kudos.
Yeah, girl.
But they haven't announced it yet, so don't tell anyone. It's not only for Google employees, but the application's already closed. Yeah. But yeah, I'm terrified. It's an Ignite style talk, which is 5 minutes, 20 slides that auto advance every 15 seconds. Yeah, it's going to be a really good time.
I'll be there taking photos. I'll tweet and stuff. Kate, you had your arm up a couple times. I just want to acknowledge you are seen.
That's good. Hopefully, can also figure out how to talk into a mic. I would love to hear about your process for identifying speakers and like how do you know that it's going to be a fruitful conversation? Like, what do you look for to bring the kind of diversity or other qualities across a many month event?
Yeah, I mean, very broadly, it's just women who we think are doing really interesting things, and often in a like kind of social good component. Most of them are non-technical founders, often of technical companies. A lot of them are in our network. They're friends of friends. One of the things that we try to be mindful of is, Kim and I are 2 straight white women. We don't only want to feature women who are like us. And so, that often means like asking for input. If you have someone you recommend, like we're always open to hearing about awesome women doing awesome things, and ones that we might not already know. Is that good?
Do you have more of like the actual process?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so finding them, I mean, sometimes they're women in our network, sometimes they're women who are recommended to us. Typically, we ask them to come to an event if they can beforehand, just to get a feel for it. And then, this is your first time, right? So typically, I interview the speaker. Now Kim will be interviewing the speaker. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make public speaking easier for women, make a format that was conducive to them getting their message across and in a really friendly environment, in an environment that involves the audience. So the talks are framed around what the speaker wants the audience to leave knowing that they might not already know, how they want them to leave feeling, and what they want the audience to leave feeling inspired to do. Because our hope is that you leave here with some bit of information or a new connection that helps you move forward on the things that are there but not there yet. A lot of the women are not that many steps ahead of the audience, and that's very conscious as well. Like, our hope is that you see women up here and think, I could do that too, because you can. I mean, how many of you want to be up here? Yeah. Yeah. Start a speaker series.
I want to piggyback on that and make a request. If you guys can make it transparent to us how we can feed into your process, that'd be really great, because I know a lot of women who I would like to recommend for your speaker series. Some not in San Francisco. So my separate from this issue question is, what is your upper limit for national and worldwide expansion and domination? But we can get back to that. But in terms of my Bay Area colleagues and people just that I know that I think would be beneficial to this room, how can we tell them what your process is and get them kind of revved up to be screened by you, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say email. Like, honestly, if you were to just shoot us an email with some different names and like we can have a conversation with you as a starting point, or, we'll look around and sort of get a feel for what that person's up to or where they're headed. And the process is fairly, We're not running that tight of a ship. Yeah. And then the other question was, worldwide domination. I love that.
Yeah.
Worldwide domination.
Sorry. I want the baton back. Just a second, Leanne. Yeah, that's a good question. So we're in New York and LA now, and we passed the baton to friends of ours. So that was a pretty easy decision for us to make. We have had requests from other cities. We're not really sure what the criteria is. We're bootstrapping. Women Catalyst does have several revenue streams, but we don't have a ton of support to expand beyond our current reach at the moment, which is part of why, we're in all of these conversations to seek out partners who can provide not only resources, but also helpful content. So, we've been a lot on the mindset, but on some of the skill set type stuff, like, those of you who want to start your own business, we're talking to law firms about like what do you need to know to do that. So companies that can bring really valuable content to you at an affordable, reasonable price point. It's part of our vision. Did I answer your question, Javon? Yeah, but definitely in the plans. But yeah, I'd love to talk to your friend, or we would love to talk to your friend in DC. Thank you. Katie.
On the topic of world domination, I know you touched on it earlier, talking about your dream scenario of what Women Catalyst would be, but just let's throw some spaghetti at the wall, and I would love to hear 5 years from now, money not a factor, because I think look at what this became in a year, the money will come. So dream scenario 5 years from now, what does Women Catalyst look like?
I guess we'll give. I think that it will be within the same vision umbrella. 5 years from now, we've got more than 100 chapters around the world that's galvanizing women in real life to meet. We are offering robust content and programming that's enabling people to build out their mindsets and their skill sets, and we're doing that both in person and through an online channel. Lindsay and I are traveling around the world to support these chapters and representing Women Catalysts on a larger stage. Maybe we have some spaces or, that land somewhere with all that fun modular housing and an Airstream and a yurt. I mean, that's in the vision that we've got written down. We have that we're sitting on a porch and we're looking out at this property, and it's got all these micro accommodations on it, from a micro cabin to a yurt to an Airstream, and that's sort of a retreat space. That's part of it.
That was great. I also think it's the time of the night that we move into celebrations. We have one more question. Yeah, Kira.
It's a quick one. Have there been any tempting opportunities that have not been in line with your vision? If so, how did you join together to reassess what your vision for the big picture was and combat that decision? It's a quick no if there isn't.
Yeah,
yes,
no. There's some, nothing really big. And, I don't actually like saying no to people, but if it doesn't feel like the right fit, we have definitely turned, watch it, the machete's on the run. The machete says no. We definitely have, and that's not a fun conversation to have, but we love and respect all of you, and we don't, I really hugely appreciate that you took your Wednesday night to come here and hang out with us, and for all of our events, I don't want to tell you to come to something that wouldn't actually create value or meaning or connection for you. So that's probably the main barrier. Is that good? Yeah? Thanks, Kira. Okay, celebration time, because we ran a little bit over, and I'm sure you all have lots of things to do, and I'm ready for a glass of wine. So, again, this is a core value of ours. There's nothing too big or too small to celebrate. What are you celebrating so we can celebrate it with you? You can just shout it out. Molly. Okay, well, I'm celebrating you for being an amazing partner who I love so much. And I'm celebrating all of you for being part of it, making it real. Thank you.
I'm also celebrating you and Women Catalyst and this community, and just really encourage all of you guys to take the leap, be courageous, own it. You have everything you need, and if you don't have something, ask for help. And if you're asked for help, give it. I think that's what I'm most grateful for in this community, and it's what Lindsay does every day, and what we try and live through Women Catalyst. So, thank you. Yeah, thank you.